Alaska, a land of rugged beauty, vast, desolate, unforgiving. Above the snow-capped peaks, a storm raged. It appeared out of nowhere, a swirling vortex of black clouds, lightning crackling at its edges. It sat there, unmoving, a malevolent presence over the frozen wilderness. Days turned into weeks. The storm remained, unwavering, unyielding. Locals whispered tales of old spirits, angered by forgotten transgressions. The outside world, however, remained oblivious, for now. The first sign that this was no ordinary storm came from the sky. Dark clouds gathered ominously, swirling in a way that defied natural patterns. The air grew thick with tension, and an eerie silence fell over the landscape, as if the world itself was holding its breath. And a small single-engine plane en route to Fairbanks vanished without a trace. No mayday call, no wreckage. It was as if the aircraft had simply been erased from existence. The pilot, an experienced aviator, had reported clear skies just moments before. Then radio silence. It was as if the storm had swallowed it whole. Then came the whispers. Whispers that seemed to ride the wind, carrying tales of dread and mystery. The storm grew more intense, its fury unmatched by any natural phenomenon. Pilots, their faces etched with fear, spoke of strange occurrences within the storm. They described hearing voices, faint and indistinct, as if the wind itself was trying to communicate. These were seasoned professionals, not prone to flights of fancy, yet their accounts were filled with an unmistakable terror. Instruments malfunctioning, compasses spinning wildly. Navigation systems that had never failed before were suddenly rendered useless. Pilots struggled to maintain control as their planes were buffeted by unseen forces. The storm seemed to have a mind of its own, toying with them, testing their resolve. Some spoke of seeing strange lights, others of hearing whispers on the wind. The lights were unlike anything they had ever seen, dancing and flickering in the stormy sky. They seemed to move with purpose, as if guided by an unseen hand. The whispers, too, grew louder, more insistent, filling the cockpit with an otherworldly presence. Whispers that chilled them to the bone. These were not just the sounds of the wind, but something more sinister, more intelligent. The pilots could feel the cold grip of fear tightening around their hearts, as if the storm itself was alive, watching, waiting. The mystery of the storm deepened, leaving those who experienced it forever changed. One by one, planes dared to enter the storm. Some emerged, forever changed. A cargo plane, its metal hull twisted into grotesque shapes. A passenger jet, its windows opaque, the passengers inside silent, their eyes vacant. Fear turned to terror. The storm, once a meteorological anomaly, became a symbol of dread. The Alaskan abyss, they called it, a place where reality itself seemed to warp and twist. Word of the strange happenings reached the lower 48. The news spread like wildfire, capturing the attention of scientists, government officials, and curious onlookers alike. Reports of unusual weather patterns, mysterious lights in the sky, and unexplained phenomena were the talk of the town. People gathered in town squares, discussing the latest developments and speculating about the cause of these strange events. The sense of urgency grew as more and more reports came in, each more baffling than the last. Dr. Emily Carter, a physicist specializing in atmospheric anomalies, was intrigued. She had spent years studying the Earth's atmosphere and had never encountered anything like this. The reports piqued her curiosity, and she delved into the scientific papers and data available, trying to make sense of the situation. Her expertise in the field made her the perfect candidate to investigate these anomalies, and she was determined to uncover the truth. The government, alarmed by the potential threat, recruited her. High-level meetings were held, and officials debated the best course of action. They needed someone with the knowledge and skills to understand and address the situation. Dr. Carter received a formal letter of recruitment outlining the urgency and importance of her mission. She accepted without hesitation, knowing that her work could be crucial in preventing a potential disaster. She arrived in Alaska, her eyes fixed on the swirling abyss above. The remote location was both beautiful and foreboding, with its vast landscapes and ominous storm clouds. As she stepped off the plane, she felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The challenge ahead was daunting, but she was ready to face it head-on. The swirling skies seemed to beckon her, urging her to uncover their secrets. Emily, a woman of science, scoffed at the tales of spirits and whispers. Locals spoke of ancient legends and supernatural forces, but she was not one to be swayed by superstition. Her rational mind sought evidence and logical explanations. She listened politely to their stories, but remained focused on her scientific mission. She knew that the answers lay in data and analysis, not in folklore. There had to be a logical explanation. Emily was confident that the strange weather patterns and phenomena could be explained through science. She spent hours poring over data, running simulations, and developing hypotheses. Her dedication to her work was unwavering, and she was determined to find the truth. The more she studied, the more she became convinced that there was a scientific reason behind the storm's bizarre effects. A scientific reason for the storm's bizarre effects. Emily's research led her to believe that there were unique atmospheric conditions at play. She hypothesized that a combination of factors, including temperature fluctuations, air pressure changes, and electromagnetic disturbances, could be causing the anomalies. Her theory was still in its early stages, but she was eager to test it in the field. She set up her equipment, a steely glint in her eyes. With precision and care, she assembled her weather instruments, ensuring that everything was calibrated correctly. The remote Alaskan wilderness provided the perfect backdrop for her research, and she felt a sense of purpose as she prepared to collect data. Her determination was palpable, and she knew that she was on the brink of a significant discovery. She would get to the bottom of this. Emily's resolve was unshakable. She was ready to face the challenges ahead and uncover the truth behind the mysterious storms. With her scientific expertise and unwavering determination, she was confident that she would find the answers she sought. The journey ahead was uncertain, but she was prepared to navigate it with courage and tenacity. Days turned into weeks. Emily, consumed by her research, barely slept. Data streamed in from weather balloons and radar, each reading more perplexing than the last. The storm seemed to defy the laws of physics. Desperate for answers, Emily made a decision. She would fly into the storm herself. Armed with her instruments and a healthy dose of trepidation, she boarded a specially outfitted plane. The engine roared and they ascended towards the swirling abyss. Inside the storm, all hell broke loose. Lightning flashed, blindingly bright. The plane bucked and swayed, threatening to tear apart. Emily, strapped into her seat, could feel her heart pounding in her chest. Then, through the chaos, she saw it, a glimmer of light pulsing at the storm's heart. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Beautiful, yet terrifying. It called to her, beckoning her closer. The plane, caught in a powerful updraft, spiraled towards the light. The turbulence was unlike anything the passengers had ever experienced. The aircraft shook violently, and the sound of the engines straining filled the cabin. The passengers clung to their seats, their knuckles white with fear. The storm outside was relentless, with lightning illuminating the dark clouds and thunder echoing through the sky. Emily, her eyes wide with fear and wonder, stared out the window. She had never seen anything like it. The light outside was blinding, almost otherworldly. It seemed to call to her, beckoning her closer. She felt a strange mix of terror and curiosity, unable to look away. Bracing herself for the inevitable, she tightened her grip on the armrests. The plane's descent was rapid, and she could feel the pressure building in her ears. The other passengers were equally tense, some praying, others crying, and a few staring blankly ahead, lost in their thoughts. As they drew closer, the light grew in intensity, bathing the interior of the plane in an ethereal glow. It was as if they were being enveloped by the light, swallowed whole by its brilliance. The cabin was filled with a surreal, almost dreamlike quality. The light was warm, comforting, and yet there was an underlying sense of foreboding, bathing the interior of the plane in an ethereal glow. And then silence. The sudden quiet was deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos that had just ensued. The passengers looked around, bewildered. The storm outside seemed to have vanished, replaced by an eerie calm. The light continued to shine, casting long shadows across the cabin. The storm raged around them, yet inside the plane there was only an eerie stillness. Emily looked around, her mind trying to process what she was seeing. The contrast between the raging storm outside and the calm inside was jarring. It was as if they were in a bubble, protected from the chaos outside. Yet inside the plane, there was only an eerie stillness. Emily looked around, her mind trying to process what she was seeing. The other passengers were equally confused, their faces reflecting a mix of relief and apprehension. The light outside continued to shine, casting an otherworldly glow on everything it touched, her mind trying to process what she was seeing. The instruments, once going haywire, were now dark, lifeless. The pilots were frantically trying to regain control, their faces etched with concentration and fear. The plane seemed to be gliding, almost as if it were being guided by an unseen force. The instruments, once going haywire, were now dark, lifeless. The pilots exchanged worried glances, their training unable to prepare them for this. The passengers waited with bated breath, the tension in the cabin palpable. What was this light? Where were they headed? The questions hung in the air unanswered as the plane continued its mysterious journey. The plane, seemingly deposited by an invisible hand, emerged from the storm, battered but intact. Emily, shaken but alive, stumbled out onto the tarmac. The world around her seemed different somehow, sharper, more real. She had no memory of the journey back. The storm, once a raging monster, was now a distant, brooding presence. Emily had her answers, but at what cost? The storm had changed her, left its mark on her soul. The Alaskan abyss remained a silent sentinel over the frozen north, but the disappearances stopped. The altered plains ceased. The storm, it seemed, had retreated into itself, its secrets intact. Emily, forever changed by her experience, dedicated her life to understanding the storm and its implications. She knew the truth was out there, somewhere in the swirling void, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps waiting to be forgotten.